Well, the first thing I need to say is that the album is produced and facilitated by a guy called Markus Reuter. Markus is a German U8 player. So I don't know if you know what U8 is. It's a guitar with 8 strings, and it's playing both guitar and bass, and you play that tapping. So it's a instrument that is derived initially from the stick that was played in the 80s and still is played, but was played by guys like Tony Levin in the Peter Gabriel band. And Markus is producing the album, is the one that let all these wonderful musicians come, and he contributed to ideas and advice, and also played some U8 on the tracks. So that's the main guy.
Listen to the vibes.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Listen to the Vibes. And I have here Mr. JP Rossi. And he has a band called Unquiet Music Limited. And we're going to get to know him and a little bit about this album that he's got. Is it already been released, or it's about to be?
Yeah, it's been released on the 3rd of February. It's available on Bandcamp, and it's also on Spotify, Apple, and all media platforms.
All right. Now, I believe when it was sent to me, it was listed as prog rock. Is that how you would describe it?
Well, describing music is always tricky.
Right.
I would say, probably the players on the album and the general influence is prog rock, but in the true sense of the term, progressive, meaning going a bit beyond barriers, beyond frontiers. So it's some people have qualified it as art rock as well. I would say it's just music, and there is no particular boundary. It can go anywhere. And one of the things I try to do in this music, this album, and even more in the previous one, is to try to generate something that I've not heard before. So and since I'm hearing a lot of music for a lot of time, I'm just trying to say, okay, if we do some music, let's do something different. Otherwise, you just go to your usual artists. So that's the idea of progressive.
Well, it's definitely nothing I've ever heard before. I guess when we tried to describe it, I kind of looked at it more like art rock. But they say, why put it in a box, right?
Absolutely.
Well, tell us a little bit more about you.
Well, actually, my trajectory through music is a bit unusual. I mean, in the 20s, just like the music, yeah, absolutely. In my 20s or 15s to 30, let's say, I was playing in a band. I was recording music. I was raised with the classical music first, and Ennio Morricone and that stuff, and then came Jean-Michel Jarre in the mid-70s, and all these synthesizers movements, Tangerine Dream, Kraftwerk, Vangelis, and so on and so forth. And then I discovered cold wave, new wave, punk rock, and so that was the early 80s, and I started making music myself with a 4-track, and then a band, and touring a little bit, and I did that more or less up till I was 30, and then I stopped everything. I stopped all music. I did something else, totally different. And I came back to music actually in 2015, 20 years later. I stopped more or less in the early 2000s. And again, as I was saying, during all those years, I was thinking, what's the point of making music? There is so much good music out there. So what's the point? And then I came back with this idea of doing something different. So yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. So I'm not particularly skilled in any instrument. I play a bit of keyboards. I sing a little bit. but I try to focus on composition and trying to compose in the broad sense of term, not only with notes and rhythms, but also with sounds, as we do today. And everything is good for composing, and trying to kind of instead of improvising, if I were a good player of whatever instrument, I could improvise. But instead of doing that, I'm trying to improvise with time and gather the time, compress the time, spend a lot of time and compress it in a few minutes or few seconds. And that's my way of improvising and letting, of course, things happen and accidents and so on and so forth. So yeah, I don't know if I answered your question, but basically, I'm back to music for the past 7-8 years, trying to do something different.
And you're over in France right now.
I'm in France. I'm also working for my day job in UK. I'm traveling a lot during those 20 years where I was not doing music. I used to travel a lot around the world. Well, I'm still traveling quite a bit. So yeah, and all this has enriched my way of apprehending, of understanding sounds and music.
Now, are you trying to make a statement with this album, or is there a special story behind it?
Yeah, I try to make statements. Absolutely. I'm not. It's not entertaining or entertainment music really, although I love entertainment music as well. But and I made some pop music as well on the same Bandcamp where you have the album. You have some other albums which are pure pop music. This time around, this album is about. It's called Meme Music, and it's actually it started by a piece that is in the album and that has been cut in two. The first and last piece of the albums were initially one piece and called Meme Music, and it's a bit of a digression or let's say ideas about the way we communicate, the way we exchange with each other. And it's, of course, it's been influenced by the past 2-3 years that we've gone through, and all these different ways of communicating that we have experienced being under lockdown, and understanding a bit differently the way to communicate. But in a more general trend is because also for the past 40-50 years, we've been communicating more and more virtually and with more and more simple elements like memes, like emoticon, emojis, these kind of things, and exchanging very simple units of communication to pass on our ideas. And of course, that's very useful when you want to pass your idea, but the drawback is that it's very simple. So you are missing a lot of subtlety of interaction between the people. So the album is about that. It starts with that. It starts with this, I would say, superficial, general way of interacting, saying very simple things. Also, the way to move into your everyday life and the society in general, where you say very simple things because you just want to make your way, and you just want to be polite, because politeness is also about saying simple things. And it goes gradually through meeting your true love, and being able to exchange with one person, and exchanging with one person in a much deeper way. And that leads to understanding somebody different, somebody that is not you, somebody that is very, very different from you, but you accept. And then through this, you can connect back, and you can then be able to speak to everybody, all those in a simple way, but also in a very open way. So it's all this trip from very superficial communication to deep communication, and back to speaking to each other, anybody to anybody.
And isn't it amazing how much things have changed from when we were younger? I mean, like when I was in school in the 70s and the early 80s, we never even dreamed of, memes and emojis and all that. Now it's part of our everyday life.
Yeah.
It's
No,
wild.
the society or the way we exchange has changed a lot. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not sure we have changed a lot because I think even from the prehistoric age, we have probably not changed much. Our brain is the same. So, but yeah, the way we interact is a bit different, and we have to try and not lose the thread, not lose the communication.
Yeah.
It's very difficult today also with the music, because when you do music or when you listen to music, and I'm the first one concerned, you listen to something, it's great, it's nice, and then you pass to something else, and then something else, and then something else. So it's more and more difficult to focus on something. So and that's also why I'm doing this kind of difficult, so to say, music, because I'm not pretending to attract attention or to have maybe when you listen to the music, then you say, okay, that's not for me. I go for the next one. But it's really a music that needs time. So I prefer to do this, take more time, do this rather than to do a lot of music in every day, every month, and issue a lot of things that you will forget. This one is more difficult, takes more time to enter into it, but hopefully if you make this effort, it stays.
Yeah, we were talking the other day about whenever a concert would come to town, and you remember you have to get like those the little music magazines or little papers and stuff to find out who was coming to town.
Yeah.
And now you pick up your phone and you just punch a few buttons, and there it is. You can find out who's coming to town, specifically what band. Yeah, you're right, man. Things have changed so much.
Same for the records, Kyle. I mean,
yeah,
in my time when I got a vinyl record, it was the holy grail. I mean, I was very happy, and I listened to it a number of times because we had very few records. So the few records we had, first of all we had to choose them very carefully, and then of course we listened to them a lot. It's very different today.
Oh yeah. My record collection was crazy. I think I estimated my record collection was like $10,000, and I probably spent what $6 or $7 on a record back then.
Yeah.
And now you see how much a record is now? It's like 27 to $30.
It's all virtual. It's all Spotify and Apple Music, whatever. So yeah, it's very easy. But still, the some music I'm trying to find is still difficult to find. I mean, for example, very rare mixes of Bill Laswell, for example, and things like that. So you you still have some things that are in the dark, but yeah, otherwise it's very easy to access a lot of things. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, what we would wait for that new album to come out and then head to the record store to pick it up, and now you just pick up your phone, and the day it comes out, it's already accessible on your phone. Never would have dreamed a day like this would have came.
Yeah.
But I still love to pick up a record. I love to look at the artwork, and I don't know, there's something more personable about holding that album in your hand. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, yeah, this is convenient to be able to play this on my phone, and I got a little speaker that I can hook up to through Bluetooth and listen to it. But man, even a CD, I mean, but I love records. There's just something about them. We need to bring those days back, man.
Yeah.
They're trying.
Yeah. And it's also a youngsters thing. It's a thing where we remember because it was when we were young. But I think there are still things that are excitement to the young guys today. Maybe it's not so much the music, maybe it's other things, maybe video games or maybe other things. But yeah, it has moved. We have to move on as well. We have to find other ways.
Another thing is a kid has a computer, he can just make up the music by himself on a computer.
Yeah.
And we were talking the other day about how we really should bring bands back into the studio, because
Yeah.
not a lot of bands do that nowadays. I mean, you got some, but everybody can just do stuff on their computer.
Well, the ones I'm listening to, a few of the ones I'm listening to still do that. I mean, but you have other ways. I mean, on my own experience is also to do music without a band. Trying to gather musicians and they play in their own place. And
Yeah.
trying to interact with them and have them understand what the music is about, or have a feeling of, even if it's a different feeling than what I initially thought, but have their own feeling on the music and do some stuff. And then I'm gathering these things and using the musician's performance as an instrument. So I'm playing with the performance. And so that's a different way of doing things, but it's also very exciting.
Well, I'll tell you, the lockdowns sure changed the whole world around. A lot of guys I've heard where somebody would do a recording at their little studio in their home and then send it off, and then they'd put it all together. It's amazing that you can do that, and somebody be a total on the other side of the world and be able to send you whatever. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
the issue with all this new technology or technology that is capable of doing anything is always the same issue for me. You need to have the idea, or you
Hmm.
need to have something coming. It's not necessarily an idea, something you let coming, and make it. Because yeah, you're right. It's so easy to take a piece of gear and press a button, and then you have some music. But then the music you will have is probably going to be very very little of you and a lot of the gear. So maybe it's good. I mean, but the problem is that you might have that reproduced a number of times around you, and that blurs the whole world of music with a lot of music that is the same.
And you had some pretty good musicians on your album. Can you talk a little bit about them?
Sure. Well, the first thing I need to say is that the album is produced and facilitated by a guy called Markus Reuter. Markus is a German U8 player. So I don't know if you know what U8 is. It's a guitar with 8 strings, and it's playing both guitar and bass, and you play that tapping. So
Yeah.
it's a instrument that is derived from initially from the stick that was played in the 80s and still is played, but was played by guys like Tony Levin in the Peter Gabriel band. And Markus is producing the album, is the one that let all these wonderful musicians come, and he contributed to ideas and advice, and also played some U8 on the tracks. So that's the main guy. Markus is a member of a band called Stickman with Tony Levin that I just mentioned, and Pat Mastelotto, who is the drummer of King Crimson. And thanks to that, I had the chance to have those two guys as well on the album, playing each one on a number. Their very particular way of playing their instruments. Pat Mastelotto for the drums and electronic drums, Tony Levin for the stick and also for the upright electric bass. And the core of the rhythm section, I would say, on the album is a guy called Troy Jones. He's a drummer from New Orleans, a wonderful drummer who played also with Markus a lot of times, and a bass player called John Poole. John is a British bass player. He played with a band in the 90s called the Cardiacs, who had a bit of fame, and is playing now with a prog act called Life Science. So John and Troy provided the most of the rhythm section, and I must say they drastically changed a lot of numbers by improvising and bringing their own feel and power to the pieces. Apart from that, we have some people of my French connection, I would say. And I'm connected since the 90s with some people coming from Algeria that have settled into France in the 90s, and they are playing, you know, at the time they were playing a genre called Rai, which is Algerian pop music. And now it's broadened, and they're playing pop and also some kind of North African pop. So I have these guys contributing, and also a wonderful singer called Samira Bramia. She's issuing an album those days and touring around in Europe and North Africa. Of course, on the album they're not playing North African music; they're playing more rock or free improvisation. And I also have some appearance from a guy from called Adrian Benavides from Austin, where I think you are. And
Yes.
Adrian is been working with Pat Mastelotto for a number of years. He has a band called Earth Diver. He's very much into the Nine Inch Nail vibe and kind of heavy or heavy rock, industrial rock. So he provided some vibes of that on the album. And Frédéric Lépée, who is a very nice guitar player, very skilled guitar player, playing in he's living in Berlin. He's a French guy. He used to play in a prog band called Shylock in the 70s. Now he's playing in a band called Yang, who are also doing prog rock and issuing albums regularly. So these guys also contributed, and a few other ones. So yeah, I had the chance to have a lot of very talented musicians contributing to this music. Yeah.
Wow, how'd you get all those guys together?
Marcus?
Just through Marcus. Wow.
Marcus and my own connections in France, but yeah, that's the way. And initially, I managed to get the attention of all these guys. Well, of Marcus and another guy called Tragan, who is a former bass player of King Crimson. Just by sending the demos and have them listening to that. And since it was something else, I would say, at least the first album, because the second album, I would say, is my mainstream album. So if you think that's a weird album, listen to the first one. So I sent them this first one, and yeah, that hooked their attention, and then we started from there.
Wow. Do you have a favorite on that album?
Favorite what?
A favorite song on that album?
I can't really say I have a favorite song. I mean, the songs are very different. So the first song is a net of voices, 15 voices singing syllables one after the other. The second song is more like industrial Nine Inch Nail. The third song is experimental choir plus a bit of funk, and then the fourth song is ambient voices. The fifth song is a ballad in the style of very cool ballads of I don't know, David Sylvian or Bowie influenced, with all due respect. Then you have a very strange rhythmic prog number with a drum solo. Then you have a kind of festive number with a carnival feel, and like a kind of playing big bands in the streets of New Orleans kind of feel. Well, it's not really that, but it's the feel. Then you have a love song, very smooth pop rock love song, and it ends up with another vocal piece. So yeah, it's very diverse. I would say I have no particular preference. It's difficult for me to say I prefer any of those, because for me they are all. I'm trying to make only climax. So of course you cannot make only climax, because if you make only climax, there is no climax. So but that's just the balance I'm trying to find, is to have all these pieces with something interesting in them and appealing, and you could, depending on your mood, you could like one or the other.
Do you have a like a top 5, top 10 list of bands that were your favorites or your most influential?
Well, favorite and most influential, I don't know, but yes, absolutely, I can say I've been listening through through my life, I listen to all kind of music, from classical to jazz to French chanson to noise rock, whatever. But so if I have to quote a few people, apart from Marcus Reuter, who is a great artist and I'm following what he's doing, I could say among the very, very famous people, I was very much influenced by the early Genesis songs, and then Peter Gabriel, King Crimson, and later on by the works of Joy Division for the Cold Wave, and then on the classical contemporary music, I could say Steve Reich, Arvo Pärt, if that rings a bell, and of course Radiohead and these kind of bands. Many guys, and a guy that makes all kinds of music, any kind of music you could imagine, from easy listening supermarket music to absolute impossible to listen noise, is John Zorn. I don't know if you heard about John Zorn. He's a saxophonist player, but he's a great composer from New York, and he's doing all kinds of music. So it's very impressive body of work. I'm very impressed by that. I follow what he does. And the other guy is the band leader from King Crimson, called Robert Fripp, who is a guitar player and has created a new way of composing, a really original way of making music, and has very interesting approach that I'm also very fond of.
Yeah. For me, it seems like it changes from time to time according to I guess, my mood. But I'd have to say number one on my list would have to be Frank Zappa.
Yeah, well, so there you go. So that's part of the family, I would say.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Frank Zappa, Triumph, of course, the Beatles. I mean, how do you not like the Beatles?
The Beatles are extraordinary. I mean, after the Beatles, really, I'm not sure there has been much invention. Bob has
Right.
done it all. They've already covered it all. So after that, it was development. It was not really a revolution.
Yeah.
They've made this very weird tape song called Revolution 9,
Number
the
9.
White
Yep.
Album, which is concrete music, really.
Have you ever played it backwards?
Yeah.
Turn me on, dead man.
Yeah,
Turn me on, dead man.
absolutely. Very
Well,
interesting. So yeah, the Beatles, absolutely.
well, if you think about it, I mean, they played hard rock and almost heavy metal on a few of their albums
Yeah,
before it was even popular.
absolutely.
And
But if you go further down, further before, you have Mozart and you have Johann Sebastian Bach. So for me, it's all a continuity. I don't rank musicians. I mean, between classical music, rock, pop, jazz, whatever. You have Miles Davis. You have a lot of great jazz players as well. So for me, it's just music. It's just music.
Yeah, true. But I don't know. I have my favorites that if I was trapped on a deserted island that I'd have to have, you know, the Who, Rolling Stones, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, Talking
But
Heads I like a lot as well.
Talking Heads,
Mhm.
oh yeah, we were just listening to them yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah, that was experimental. That was different for its time.
That was different. Yeah, absolutely. And that there is this guy, this former guitar player from King Crimson called Adrian Belew. He's touring with a former Talking Heads member, Jerry Harrison, and they are playing this album from 1980 called "Remain in Light" from Talking Heads. So
And
that's also one thing not to miss if you happen to be around when they're playing.
did you like Tom Tom Club?
Yeah, Tina Weymouth and Chris Frantz. Yeah, absolutely.
I tell you what, they broke away from Talking Heads, and I thought they were gonna go on further than what they did. But that album, God, I can't remember the name of it. But that was a great album.
Yeah, I don't remember either, but yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah, well, a lot of different bands they contributed so much to, you know, the different sounds that came around. Some of it were happy accidents, and a lot of bands can say those are the bands that influenced me, and They're the reason why I'm making music nowadays. I mean, if you could pinpoint one specific, it would be a person or a band, who would you say influenced you the most to be a musician?
Well, at the very start, it was the music of spaghetti westerns, Ennio Morricone.
Oh yeah.
I was listening to that when I was 10 or 8. And I love that. I love that because it was lyrical. It has a feeling of traveling somewhere, and at the same time there was a lot of humor and very, very strange instruments, and it was very melodic. The melodies and harmonies of Ennio Morricone are something very special. So it has this this feeling of being something grand, something going beyond, and at the same time very, very humoristic. So
Oh yeah.
that's probably one of the first things that that led me to have to want to do music.
See, that is my favorite genre of movies, is like the old Clint Eastwoods,
Yeah.
The Trinity, or My Name Is Nobody. All those, I love those movies, man. I I
But it
don't know
was
if the kids of nowadays would love the or get that humor, but I did.
I'm sure it's still very popular. If you pass a Clint Eastwood movie to a young guy today, he will probably appreciate it as well. I mean that this has no age. This doesn't go old. I mean it's still very good. And again, this because of the humor, because of the very, very particular way to do it, and also nice, great stories.
Oh yeah. Well, you know that Terrence Hill is doing a new movie?
Nope, didn't know that.
Yeah. I thought he had totally fallen off the radar, but it's not a Western. It's more like a motorcycle gang type movie.
Okay.
But I mean, he was the king of the comedic spaghetti westerns, that's for
Yeah,
sure.
with his pal Bud Spencer,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Um boy, that's something I could talk about for hours.
Italian guys.
And did you know that he had learned to speak English, but he still had his voice overdubbed for those movies anyway?
No, I was not aware of that. Um, Interesting.
Yeah,
It's,
I could talk about him all day, but this is about you, man. Now, has this inspired you to create more music for the future, or you haven't, or you're kind of taking a break from that right now?
yeah, I'm actually now the album has been issued, and I've been preparing a few videos. I've done actually videos to explain each song or to
Hmm.
talk about each song. I've issued the first one a few days ago, and there are about 8 or 9 videos. So will issue that. So I'm more on a period where I'm let's say, yeah, resting from composition and trying now to promote and to make this music access a few people. And again, the other thing is that I'm not really deciding. Actually, I'm saying that, but just before this interview, I was working on something new. So, but anyway, um, I'm not really deciding in the fact that it's the same that when I restarted making music and saying, okay, I'm going to make something different. It's not like I just decided to, okay, let's sit down and do something different. It happened. It happened. So, as I was saying, I'm not proficient in any instrument. So, but I'm a dreamer. So what I do is I let the music come. I dream of the music. I try to be close to let things happen or close to my dreams, and then try to materialize that. So if they don't come, I don't do music. It's very simple. It's not like, again, it's not like I'm a skilled guitar player, so I take my instrument and then I start playing and I can improvise something. The people who can do that, that's great. That I admire that, because of course when they take their instrument, they have this connection, and this dream that I was mentioning comes directly, flows through them to their fingers. and the instrument starts to be talking to them the same way they talk to the instrument. So they have a kind of interaction that lets this thing from the inside happen outside, and that's improvisation. That's great, but that's not something I can do really. Although, I mean, Marcus is teaching as well, and he's said to me once, you can improvise with anything. Just take a flute or take any a pan and a saucepan, and you can improvise. Just do it. And it's true. I mean, if you want to do music, just do it. Just start and see how it goes. And if you're open enough, if you are listening, things will happen. And it's very different than pressing a button and saying, okay, this piece of gear is great, so I will change this and that parameter and the press and see what happens. That's nice, but it's only the first step, I would say. After that, well, you have to let things happen, and also in my particular case, you know, the improviser he can improvise because he masters his instrument. And he masters his instrument because he worked a lot to be technically very skilled. And after that, he has to forget about the technique to let things happen precisely. In my case, I work a lot in concentrating the time. That's what I was saying before. So the first thing that I'm doing is not really great. Is not materializing what I have in mind, but I have to work on that and work a great amount of time, several months, to make this thing come. And of course, in the course of this work, like in the course of an improvisation, you have accidents. And when accidents happen, they are part of the process. But eventually, when you finish that long time of work, you arrive with a piece that is probably different than what you were thinking initially, but that's the result of the process, and you don't necessarily remember all the steps of the process, or you cannot go to mix number 1, mix number 2, and so on and so forth. It's just a process. And then, of course, when you're there, at one moment you need to stop. You need to say, okay, that's it. But really, in an ideal world, you never stop. Initially, when I was making my first album, I was not thinking of publishing it. I was thinking of making this album forever. I mean, doing this music, trying to do this music, concentrating the time, gathering all these elements, bringing all these things together in an hour of music, and doing that forever until I die. Because you can go on forever and ever. And it's only because at one time, of course, I realized that I have to stop somewhere. And also Marcus advised that, well, it's time. So you issue something. But I think it's the same for all artists. They're never happy with what they have done. They could only go better afterwards. And what they issue is just a version. And the important thing is the process, really, which does not prevent you from enjoying what you have done. And of course, I'm not saying, okay, I'm doing music and then well, I'm not happy and I forget about it. No, I enjoy what I'm doing. I like to listen to it for a while. After that, I will probably pass to something else, but for a while, and I like and I enjoy what I produce. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm in that now with this latest album.
Well, you think of all the contributions we've had in music over the years. Les Paul with his guitars that he created, the Beatles with all the things that they did, experimenting, the Kinks. I mean, running knitting needles through their amps to cause distortion. You know, even as recent as you think of Robert Palmer, he used the aluminum foil pipe hands to make sounds on his albums, or even taking two swords together and making noises. I mean, all the different things that we've gotten from bands through the years and all the great music. And we need to encourage people to just keep trying. You know, you never know what you're going to come up with.
even with the configuration of a band, this band I was mentioning, King Crimson, this band from the 70s, but they've been playing up till 2021, I guess. And their latest incarnation was 3 drummers in front of the stage and 4 guys in the back of the stage. So,
Wow.
And that was a band, and they were playing classic prog numbers and also experimental numbers, and they were also improvising, the 7 of them. At one time, there were even 8. So even by just gathering musicians in a certain way, you create something new. And that's also the spirit of jazz, because, you know, in the jazz, you have a lot of people just meeting each other and say, okay, let's do some music. And Marcus as well is improviser, so he's not playing jazz, but he's playing improvisation. And I would say the spirit of jazz is there, because it's he meets some other rock players, and then they improvise rock numbers or experimental numbers, Zappa style numbers, or I don't know, some heavy rock numbers as well. So yeah, it's just by meeting people, you can create something new, and also experimenting with the different devices you can have. I remember when I was young, my first attempts, I was recording my motorcycle, just to make some noise, or I was having a pan with water and making some noise in the water and using that. And then of course the samplers appeared, and with the samplers you could do a lot of those things. It lost a bit of its magic, because you were able to manipulate everything and master everything. Before that, you were not really sure of what you're going to produce, so that was also kind of interesting.
Yeah, those happy accidents.
Yeah.
Well, if you'd like, I could put the links to those YouTube videos in the description.
Sure.
And you know, plus links to get your album. Now, do you have a website?
Well, no, the website basically is Bandcamp. So you can go on the Bandcamp side. You will see we have 13 albums out there from Unquiet Music Limited. Actually, this one is the second experimental album. The first one was the very first album of the series. There are a number of singles, and there are also these pop tunes, which we issued on a different band names. It's called Your Preferred Retailer. That's the band name. And the song is called Better Later. That's sung by a young girl. So it's kind of fresh 80s pop. So you can check that as well. Everything is on Bandcamp. And yeah, I invite you to or the listeners or the watchers to check that. And the videos, if you are interested in understanding a bit more about the process to create this music. Yeah.
And are you on social media?
I'm on Facebook. We have a Facebook, Unquiet Music Limited Facebook, and Instagram.
Well, I'm going to put all those links in the description to make it easy for folks to find you.
Sure.
And Jean-Philippe, I appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you very much, Kyle. Thanks for having me.
Anytime, man. And I also want to thank all of you out there. If you are new to this channel, well, please hit that subscribe button. And for my regulars, I appreciate y'all for allowing me to do this. So until the next one, everyone, please take care. Be kind to one another. God bless, and peace.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Listen to the Vibes. You can catch us on Buzzsprout or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, and on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook at The Vibes Broadcast Network